missed by its conceptual apparatus. As we all know, Heisenberg, Bohr, and others, on the contrary, insisted that this incompleteness of our knowledge of quantum reality points towards a strange incompleteness of reality itself, a claim which leads to a breathtaking weird ontology. What kind of weird ontology? Let me give you a well-known example. When we want to simulate reality within an artificial digital medium, we do not have to go to the end. We just have to reproduce features which make the image realistic for the spectator's point of view. Say, when you are playing a digital PC game, if there is a house in the background, the programmer does not have to construct the house's entire interior, since we expect that the participant, the player, will not want to enter the house, or the construction of a virtual person in this space can be limited to his exterior. You know, when you interact with a person there, it's not in the program bones and so on. It's not part of the rules of the game. We just need maybe to install a program which will promptly fill in this gap if the participant's activity will necessitate it. It is like, you know, when you scroll down a long text on a computer screen. Earlier and later pages do not pre-exist our viewing then. In the same way, when we simulate a virtual universe, the microscopic structure of objects can be left blank. And if stars on the horizon, when you see the sky in a digital PC CD-ROM, whatever game, if the stars appear hazy, blurred, we need not bother to construct the way they would appear to a closer look, since there is no closer look within the game. Nobody will go up there to take such a look at them. Now, you get it, what's my point? The interesting idea here is that the quantum indeterminacy, which we encounter when we inquire into the tiniest components of our universe, can be read in exactly the same way, as a feature of the limited resolution of our simulated world. That is to say, as the sign of the ontological incompleteness of what we experience as reality itself. That is to say, let us imagine a God who is creating the world for us, its human inhabitants, for us to dwell in. His task, I quote here Nicholas Firm, Introduction to Philosophy, his task could be made easier, God's task, by furnishing the world only with those parts that its inhabitants need to know about. For example, the microscopic structure of the Earth's interior could be left blank, at least until someone decides to dig down deep enough, in which case the details could be hastily filled in as required. If the most distant stars are hazy, no one is ever going to get close enough to them to notice that something is amiss. I love this theory because you got it. Why? The idea is that when God created the world, he underestimated us. He was too lazy. He thought that the limit of our knowledge is atoms. He thought that we will not go beyond the atom into dividing it. So why spend precious time of divine jouissance or what into constructing things there? So he simply left it open, you know. Who cares about the place of a particle, velocity? Let's leave it open. We were a little bit too intelligent for God. We approached the end. We approached the limit. Now, of course, your counter question would have been, but what has this to do with materialism? Isn't this entire vision precisely based on the theological view? There must be a creator. My answer is no. That is to say, it's not necessary to read this ontological, as it were, incompleteness of reality as a sign that we live in a simulated universe, but we can simply read it as a sign of the ontological incompleteness of reality itself. And this, I think, is the difficult thing to accept. That is to say that reality is in itself incomplete, because our common sense tells us if reality is incomplete, it will collapse into itself. You know, you can play the game, but at some ultimate level, things, in order for things to exist, they must, by definition, fully ontologically exist. If reality really exists out there, it has to be complete all the way down. Otherwise, we are dealing with a fiction which just hangs in the air, like appearances which are not appearances of a substantial something. But here, precisely, I think, again, quantum physics offers a model of how to think such open ontology. And I claim, ruthlessly manipulating him, that Alain Badiou formulated the same idea in his notion of pure multiplicity as the ultimate ontological category. Reality is the multiplicity of multiplicities which cannot be generated or constituted from or reduced to some form of ones as its elementary atomic constituents. The difficult thing is to think multiplicity as original. You get my point? There is a multiplicity which is not multiplicity of ones. Multiplicity comes before one. No matter how far we progress in our analysis of multiplicities, we never reach the zero level of simple constituents. You can go endlessly on. The only background of multiplicities is just zero, the void. Therein resides, I think, Badiou's ontological breakthrough. The primordial opposition is not that of one and zero, but that of zero and multiplicities, and the one emerges later. To put it even more radically, since only ones fully really exist, multiplicities and zero are the same thing. Zero is multiplicities without ones which would guarantee their ontological consistencies. So when Badiou speaks about multiplicities and the void, his point is not this vulgar Democrite one. You know, you immediately think, yes, I know. Multiplicities are small atoms running all around and the void is the space. No. Imagine rather multiplicities, but then the more you divide them, it's always more open space. The zero is the substance of multiplicities. And now comes, okay, nonetheless, it's in my nature to tell a joke, not a dirty one. The ideal Badiouian ontologist who confirmed this, I found it, believe me or not, I encountered him in Poland. It's not a joke, it's a wonderful example. Namely, let's do a little bit of cultural theory. I was always interested in this, let's call it, differences in shared ideology, Lebenswelt ideology, which is betrayed by tiny details. For example, for me, the difference between Europe and the United States is that when you enter elevator in a hotel, you notice it. We in Europe start with zero. The ground level is zero, and then 1, 2. Americans start with 1. Our ground level is there 1. It's clear. We know that you have to have a zero, a substantial background. Americans think you can start with 1, you don't need the zero, the big other, which is confirmed by another strange thing. It always surprises me in American hotels, and as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, in Europe you don't find this, that in hotels which have more than 13 floors, the 13th floor it's 12 and 14. This is, for me, part of the same phenomenon. Why? Because whenever I encounter this, I ask my American friends, but wait a minute, whom are you cheating? God knows that your 14 is really 13, no? I mean, it's kind of a subjectivist idealism, it doesn't work. So, okay, which of these solutions is then the right one? None of them. I got an answer in Poland, where I was staying in a hotel, and I noticed there's something very strange. It's really like they read Badiou's Being an Event. They start as Europeans, 0, but they go directly to 2. 0, 2, 3. And then there was this spontaneous philosopher. I asked, surprised, an old gentleman, the porter operator, but why? Where is the 1?